Hey everybody, welcome to Tea Time with Amy and Bev. What's up, chicky do?
Not a whole lot. I say that, but it's because I'm like thinking, is there stuff going on? I got both of my grandkids and one of my daughters yesterday. We got to have a good time. And my practice lately is just to be more now, even more than I was before. It's to, once you slow down enough and you have the awareness of where your thoughts are going and what you're thinking. And when stuff's popping up on me, I'll be like, that's a thought. And as soon as I say that's a thought, it like takes away the energy of where my thought was going. But it's recognizing that, because I cannot believe, I was talking to Freeman about this recently. I actually heard someone on TikTok, and the guy was saying, I want to explain this to you. And he shows this he opens up, he says, this is the way a man thinks. And he opens up spaghetti, and it's like he said, this one thought, we might be thinking, okay, I got to get up. Maybe I'll go fishing today. I don't know. I could always mow the lawn. I'm not sure, it goes along this line. Ooh, my wife looks really good today, or my girlfriend, or whatever. It goes like all these patterns. And then he's talking about a girl, and then he pulls out this wad of, I get, my mind says fishing line, like all kind of bubbles up. And he says, this is a woman's thought. And it's how it's like all over the place. And I'm talking to Freeman about this. We're having this conversation, and I'm like, do you think, like, is this accurate? And he says, yeah. And I said, well, I feel like this is accurate when it's depicting women. And I'm like, why is that? Why is that? Where did it come from? It's always been that way. It's always been that way, generational, like forever, always. But we don't have to carry it anymore. So when I start to look at that stuff, I'm like, well, I'm back to forgiving all of my ancestors and forgive myself. And like, listen, guys, we don't have to carry this anymore. We can just let this stuff go. We don't have to carry these thoughts anymore, because to me, that's another way of keeping men and women separate when there is no separation. It doesn't matter about the masculine or feminine. We've been looking at a lot of that stuff, and it keeps us separate. I had no idea what the hell we were going to talk about today, where this is going right now, but here we are. But that's kind of the stuff I've been processing lately.
Yeah, it's that's something that I always typically bring up in my classes, especially, of course, meditation classes, that we, for whatever reason and wherever it came from, as women, and men do it too, and in a sense, that we were trained to store everything up here in our head. The to-do lists, the tasks, the all of it, like stored up here in the head. And that keeps our mind very busy, because we're trying to keep track of all kinds of things, even the grocery list, right? The grocery list is stored in the head. And then you go to the store. Like if I used to do that, I would make a grocery list. I'd store it in my head, go to the grocery store, get my groceries, go home, right? And it's taking up space in the head. And now if it gets past 3 items, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make a list. Like I put it in my notepad in my phone, because I don't want my brain working that hard as far as that goes. I want to have space to think of other things that are more deeper, actually having a deeper conversation, whether it's with me, my higher self, my angels, whoever that is. Like I have the space in my thoughts to ask the questions, like we've been talking about for a very long time, to ponder things about life and ask the questions, and then allow those questions to be answered. If I have the grocery list stirring in my head and I'm thinking about it from the time I leave my house to the time I get to the grocery store and through the grocery store, and I'm just trying, like, there's no time to let other stuff flow. So, if you think about, like, almost every job I've had, I go in, I figure it out, I do it, and then it becomes just part of my daily routine, right? I know how to do it, I just do it. But then you get to that space where you're like, what if something happens to me? No, there's no manual, there's no guidelines, there's nothing in writing to go by, there's nothing, like everything is in my head. And it's like, why are we doing that? We need to write things down, so if anything happened, there's there's the stuff, right? It's either in Google Drive or in a notebook, wherever it's at. So the other thing is that what I also recognized is in those I'm using jobs as the example, in those positions, as long as it was stored in my head and I was the only one that knew how to do it, then I saw myself as valuable. Right? They can't get rid of me because I know how to do it and they don't. so so that was proving my worth and my validity and all that stuff. It's like they have to keep me because I know it all. That was the ego trip, and that was also my way of feeling feeling that acceptance, that proved I was smart enough or good enough to hold that position because I was the only one that knew how to do it. But then there was the flip side of that. I was like, well, Amy, let's be real. If you get sick and end up in the hospital or something, what's going to happen? How are they going to manage? Right. So there's two sides of that piece. But I was like, I don't care. My ego said, I don't care. As long as I know how to do it, they're going to keep me around. So, nah.
That's funny.
So that's also, if you want to keep going, that's also control. So that was something I felt like I had control over. And as long as I had control over it, then I felt better because it didn't have control over during childhood. None of us really do. So when you find those things as an adult that you quote unquote have control over, we harness that and hang on to it, because then now we feel like we have some kind of power in our own life when we didn't have that power when we were younger.
It's interesting. It is interesting. Just the whole process of going through everything, just step by step. And it's when you start doing this stuff, it feels like you're taking leaps. It really does, because it feels like you're not being guided by this old template. I say that, but it's like if we stop and listen to our thoughts, we're reacting. Like if somebody says something or does something, we're automatically pulling from our archives another situation that is exactly what they're doing. So then we're determining from that old template, this is the way that it is. This is the way this person's thinking, instead of assuming, right? Assuming because this is how it played out before. It really isn't like that. If we can move forward and not move forward, which is kind of a crazy thought, because you can't move forward and say, oh, this is going to burn your hand, and it's not going to burn your hand. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe we become so aware that we can separate ourselves and we're not burned by it. We're just recognizing it's an energy just as much as we are an energy. So I need to vibe a little bit differently to match up with that energy. Maybe that's what it is. But there's just so much stuff going on in our lives. And when we start looking at that stuff, we start recognizing, like I was saying, all of these behaviors, autopilot, right? Going back to what we were familiar with, because it's something unfamiliar. But if we can go forward without any attachment to the past, really, without using that as our guide for everything, because it's not always true and accurate. Because even before, when our template was created, it was through our eyes, it was through our experiences. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It just was an experience at that time. But we keep bringing the past forward by maintaining those old templates, by operating from that old space again. So then we don't do anything, because it's easier to stay in a space that's comfortable, whatever that looks like for you. Comfort could be you have someone taking care of everything for you all the time, and you don't have to think about it. You're comfortable. You don't have to think. You can just stay right where you're at forever, or you don't have to, because comfort is great. But comfort, I think we've gotten it to a place where we use comfort as our regular daily lives. Like that's like the goal for a lot of people, instead of looking outside the box, having that stimulation, learning something new, because it kind of puts you on the space like of not knowing how to do something. And then you have to step into this power of learning a new skill, which is so freaking awesome, I think. Or learning more about skills that you already have, that you're not even have an awareness to it, or you think it's like when I first started out with a lot of this stuff, when I went through massage school and I went through a new age store and picked up a crystal, I started learning things. It was a whole new environment. If I had gone with my old template, I would have walked in there, not had it. None of this stuff probably would have happened. I would have probably already had an attachment to an outcome. I'm just going to walk in there. It smells great. Yay. Whatever. They have a bunch of crystals. Wow. You know, whatever. But it was more than that. I was tuned in, turned on, and tapped in, right? The whole thing. So that was how it started pulling me forward. That started changing my template. I was not in the same space anymore than I have. I'm holding a crystal and I'm feeling these things. Well, what do I learn about this? How do I move forward with this? Oh, so what? I can feel things. Who cares? What does that do? That's a magic power. Well, guess what? It is a magic power because we can tune into everybody. We can connect to anything. It doesn't, a bee, a bird, a person, like it doesn't matter. Someone here in the physical, someone in non-physical. It's like we have all these opportunities. And the only way we can get there is by letting go of the old template, the old language, the old communication. It's learning all new stuff, and that makes it fun. That's where we're at right now. This is the space, the time-space reality that we're in right now, depending on what you're looking at.
Yeah, and you talk about, you not talk about, but hear about people, they're just like, why can't it just go back the way it was? How come we can't be normal, right? Quote unquote normal. How come everything can't just be normal? Well, first of all, what's the definition of normal? I don't think anybody has that actually clear, because each one of us is going to view that in a different way. And it goes to, if you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over, and there's no growth, no expansion, no evolution, what is the purpose of that? To stay stagnant, to stay in the, if you're used to staying in your negative thought patterns, does that mean your normal is to stay in those negative thought patterns and never feel any better than that? Like, if that's your normal, I'm not going to judge you. And if that's where you want to be, that's not where I want to stay. So that's not going to, being in that space, which I knew, early on in my days, was being in that space of negativity and feeling horrible. It wasn't normal, but I didn't know what normal was. But in fact, there is no real definition of normal when we apply it to our life. What I did know is I wanted to feel better. Well, for me to feel better, I had to change. Something had to change, and that change had to come from me, within me, because I can't change anything outside of myself. And to seek out what felt better and to implement what I was learning, I had to evolve. And if we're not going to choose to evolve, then we're going to stay stagnant. And whatever stagnant is for you, again, that's something that could be defined by each one of us individually. It's like, how do you want to feel? There's got to be change in something, or not. But if it's the not, then don't bitch about it. It's like, don't be upset because you're stuck where you're at, feeling the way you feel, and it just sucks. Don't bitch about it if you're going to choose to stay there. You got to do something different. And that means change, evolve. It means, taking responsibility for yourself, just doing things differently. And when you're doing that, you're not going to stay in your quote unquote normal space. It can't happen. What's normal for me now is not what my normal was back then.
No kidding.
And even that, what I might call my normal is still evolving. So the whole premise of, is it quote unquote a normal state of being, or is it a learning state of being, a growing state of being, an expansion state of being? Like, it's got so many definitions because there's always movement, and emotion is energy in motion. So we want to keep moving and keep evolving and changing and growing so that we can be and do better within ourselves. And when we do that, then everything around us shifts and everything gets better.
Absolutely. I agree. I concur.
I concur. That's just a fun word to say.
It is. It is. It is. It's a fun word to say. I was talking about that to someone recently. And it was funny. It was a good conversation because we've talked about this before on several occasions, and it just it's a fun word. It's just fun.
It makes me smile. It makes me laugh every single time it's said. I don't care if somebody else says it or if somebody else says it, I have to say it right. I'm like, concur. It just cracks me up.
It's awesome. It is interesting, this place that we're in, honestly. It is. And it is interesting, just describing normal and normal for everybody, does that mean you're carrying on the old paradigms? You know what I mean? Are you carrying on the old patterns? Are you carrying, is that the normal for you? Because for me, looking at a lot of things, I can see where a lot of things needed improvement. They need change. And yeah, looking at what's normal for me, that was not normal. Do you know what I mean? If you're raised with someone that says, I'm going to bust your ass, and they bust your ass, that's your normal. That's what you expect, but that's not, how does that feel? Right? Like, how does that really feel right now? And to me, when you're staying in that comfort and that normal, it creates anxieties, because I feel like spirit creates these anxieties to kind of spur you to kind of get you moving a little fire under your butt. So you start moving around and doing some stuff, or you start being pulled in a direction. Now, for us, a lot of times we might feel stagnant, but I think stagnation at that point is not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe it's the time for rest and integration of that information you've been receiving or practicing it. So it's like all an opportunity, or it's just checking in with yourself, right? I talked recently, or probably, I don't know if we talked about or recorded it, but a lot of the stuff, like just moving forward and not doing anything at all, that it started creating the anxiety and started pushing me in a different direction. The stagnation gave me the opportunity, like I was just saying, to kind of bring forward this information and then kind of use it. And then at the same point, meditation was the one thing that really eliminated my anxiety. And if I start noticing any anxiety in the daytime, the meditation, I'll recognize that I didn't do it last night. Whether I can't express enough. It doesn't matter if you fall asleep when you're listening to it or not, you're still getting a benefit from it. I'm still getting a benefit from it. It doesn't matter if I'm falling asleep with it or not. Because when I don't do it, I notice the next day. And when I do it, I notice the next day. And I notice during the day if I'm starting to feel that way too. And it's getting to that place. We all think we got to just go do something, but that getting into that stagnation, it's kind of an opportunity to kind of get into meditation, to listen, right? Because if you have that list going through your head constantly that you didn't write on a piece of paper, you're occupying your mind and not allowing any of the information to come through to you, all the messages that you want, all the information to flow to you. It doesn't allow it. And then for me, again, I'm at a space where I've caught myself, because we seem to have a tendency to look at the problems for a lot of things. And it's like, as soon as I catch myself recognizing that I'm looking for what caused that? Why did that even happen? I'm just asking for solutions, because it doesn't necessarily, does it really benefit us to know that? No, because I don't think it does, because now I'm trying to apply that in my template again, so that next time a situation happens, I've got something to pull from. And I don't think it's necessary, because that's not being in the now. That's constantly being in the past and trying to create your future. You're constantly pulling something from the past and trying to create a future from that space. And it's just not possible. It's not. You might slightly change something, but you bringing the old to the new, it really isn't benefiting. Not my old stuff. Definitely not my old stuff. Constantly being in the now, we don't have to think about stuff. We don't have to do anything. The information constantly flows. We're constantly in the space of solution. Everything about ourselves, any question that we have, we're automatically connected to that information. As long as we're not stuck in our heads thinking and thinking and thinking about things and trying to find looking at the problems and looking at everything in the world. Who says it's a freaking problem? Like, who says that? Someone else. And what is that ruled by? A lot of this stuff is ruled by fear. So it's really just, it's all the way back to the same thing we always talk about. It's really, you're stepping in your emotions and you're really feeling it. You're really feeling everything in its entirety. You're not trying to ignore it, run away from it. Believe me, I still have some of those old thoughts come forward, because I talked to you recently. We were off the recording, but talked to you about stuff like that. And And my thing was like, well, I could just up and leave the United States. Screw it. Doesn't matter. That would be a whole new a new template that I would be creating, but I'd be running from the same stuff. And we laugh about this stuff. You can run away all you want to, but you're still taking your shit with you. You're always going to have it with you. The persons that you may leave a person because that's been a situation, but if you're not processing what that person is mirroring for you or what you could learn from it, you're taking it along. It's going to show up to you in the next relationship. It's going to show up in the next job. It's going to show up in the next house with the neighbors or with just your environment, how you're living your life, how it feels. That doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And then these moves are so easy. It sounds so subtle. Well, I'm just paying attention to my thoughts. So every time I recognize because I walk around, and I'm sure people do it all the time. I'm walking around. Next thing you know, I'm all of a sudden tuned into my thoughts. How long were my thoughts going before I tuned into them? I don't know. But then as soon as I get that, I recognize it. That's a thought. That's not information flowing to me right now. It's freaking awesome. It's just another part of, I would say, how spirit's grooming me or moving me forward with the things and the thoughts and desires that I would like in my future or in my experience, not my future, because all we have is right now.
We were talking about that maybe being stagnant is a time to meditate. That's changing to me. That's changing your definition of being stagnant. It's the
100%.
evolution of it, right? So
Yeah.
when I was talking about being stagnant, I mean staying in your muck and guck and your worries and your problems and your negative mindset. You're hanging on to those heavy emotions of anger, judgment, guilt, shame, criticism. Like, to me, that was being stagnant. There was no movement out of that. And then, you bring in this idea, well, stagnant might be it's time to meditate. Absolutely. But being in the space back then, 30 years ago, stagnant was not a time to meditate because I wasn't in that space. I had to evolve, so the word evolved with me. And so now, yes, I understand your perspective of, well, maybe being stagnant right now, there's no movement, but we know there's always movement. But maybe it's just a time to sit and be, and maybe reflection, or just have some inner peace, or I can receive that now with where I'm at. And I can say, oh yeah, it's a new way to look at the word stagnant. That's kind of cool. I like that. Back then, I'd be like, bitch slapping you. I'm like, no. There's no room for meditation. Are you kidding me?
That's why it's so important for us to evolve our definitions, honestly,
Right.
because sometimes they don't evolve, right? So it's hearing those thoughts. It's just hearing those thoughts so you can, oh, is that what the word means? And then looking it up. It's like one thing I learned from someone when I was first getting involved in crystals. I'd gone to this big, huge place that it had so much stuff, and it had a lot of energy when I walked in. And I was new to it, and I was holding the stones to see if I'm getting anything. And a girl comes up to me and she says, you can put into that stone anything you want to. You can set any intentions into it. I can hold on to that and read the definition of that stone, and now that stone is doing those things. Or I can set it to be whatever I want it to be. I could set it to be for me. I could set it to be for somebody else. But we can do that with anything. And I think that's where we can flex our power. I mean, that's where a lot of our power can be, how we can change things. And it's really just setting your intention with things like that. So taking a word and then finding the positive out of that word, because not every word's a negative. Even death is not a bad word. That just means new beginnings, which we know that. Anybody that messes around with tarot cards or oracle cards, it always means a new beginning. The old it's done. It's time for a new beginning. And it could be on many aspects. It could be relationships, career, just your life in general, money. So we've got all this information around us, and we can make it be whatever we want it to be. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. Just like love, you use the word love or God, and people have such mixed emotions about those two words because they have attached old definitions to something. And then when you change it, now I'm changing that. If I'm looking at the word love, now I'm changing it, because now it's not just something I say to somebody, it's something I feel. It's my connection to source. It's my connection to my higher self, my soul, whatever you want to call it. That's our connection. That's our God-given right. We've always had it. We've just been trained away from it. We
Yeah.
decided to go the opposite direction because we didn't carry it. We didn't stand in our power, even once we came here with life that happened to us. It seemed like, especially being younger.
Yeah, the definition of love is, in the early days, was somebody needed to express a kind, caring, compassionate emotion towards me so I could feel accepted, so I could feel loved. Now that definition has changed. I don't have to look outside of myself for that. It's in me already. It's always been in me. It's never been wavered in any way. I just didn't know it was there to um, feel it for myself, because I wasn't taught to feel it for myself, to connect to that that's within me. So again, we're changing the definitions as we evolve. Love, stagnant, um, uh, movement, uh, just be. I mean, there's so many things that change as we change, and it's based on our perspective. And so, um, going back to also what you're saying, that you could run from a situation or people, but wherever you go, there you are. I mean, sure, leave the country, but you're taking you with you. And in any situation, you're the common denominator, because it's your experience that you've created. So if you focus on, I'm going to say negative, but you focus on negative stuff, you get more negative stuff. You focus on positive stuff, you get more positive stuff. And in either situation, you get to decide how you're going to feel in that experience. Well, if you have that same mindset, and you view this particular thing as negative, and you view this particular thing as positive, you're going to take that same mindset with you to the next country, around the world, because it's part of you. And I just had this conversation over the weekend for the full moon gathering, and a lady was talking about how her daughter, she moved her daughter here, and daughter's like, I hate it here, I don't like it, nothing's going right. Well, that's the space she's in, and she thinks that if she moves to a different state, that things will be better. Maybe it's true, maybe it is true that it will be better, but for how long? Because you're still taking you with you. You haven't changed anything within yourself to focus on the amazing things that are already in your experience. You're only focused on what's wrong, what's falling apart, what's doesn't feel good. That's where your focus is. And so, when you get in that space of the gratitude and the love and the compassion and the excitement and the opening yourself up to broader perspectives and viewpoints, um, that when you move from one place to another, you take you with you, and you will be able to do the same thing in that space as well. So people, and I know, because I did it myself, thinking that all these people outside of me needed to change so I could be happy, or I needed to fix everybody outside of me so that they could be happy so I could be happy. Um, it's a fallacy. It's we just are viewing our relationships. I'm going to use the word wrong. We're viewing them in a wrong way because we're too focused outside of ourselves. And to turn that, what if we, I just had this image of like, what if we just walked around all day with a mirror? So we could just see ourselves all day long, and be witness to like facial expressions when somebody talks to you, or recognizing how do you see yourself, or are you ignoring yourself, right? You're not going to look, the mirror's there, but you're not going to look in it. You're going to look away. You never, it's right there, but I'm not going to look at in this mirror, So it's like, but we're doing that every day when we see the people around us. We are looking in a mirror when we look at other people. And if we were to harness that, then that would allow us to be and do better within ourselves if we're open to that process of evolving. And it goes along, I just want to hit up on this, it goes along with the big hoopla right now about artificial intelligence. That's evolution. That's here. It's part of our experience right now. It's not going to go away. And there are people who are absolutely scared to death of it. There's people like me who I'm harnessing it for my marketing material and content. And then there's people who are even more advanced, that where it's going to affect like the medical fields and all these like way advanced things that's far beyond me. So it's like, where are you in that scale? I'm embracing it. I think it's cool. I think there's a lot of good that could come from it, whereas other people are just absolutely freaked out about it. So it's again, we're each defining what artificial intelligence, whether it's good or bad.
Almost
And
like taking the artificial intelligence and putting our intention into it. Do you know what I mean? So your intention into it is because it's going to make it easier for you. It's more useful. It's all these other things. But if someone else has that same thought or that same information, their intention into it, it's creating something they don't want to create.
Right.
And that's where our power is as well. It's being aware of what are we thinking at that time, because now we're defining something because of something they've given to us, but we can change the definition anytime we choose. We can make it better for us. So your take on it just said that same thing. And a lot of people don't do that because they get stuck and thinking that's it. There can't, this is the end of everything. And it doesn't necessarily mean anything. It doesn't have to be that way, because that's, again, setting our intentions into something without even being aware of it, but we're putting intentions into it, not even knowing about something. So grabbing our old template, right? Saying it goes along with the whole conversation, grabbing our old template, how we're going to handle a situation. And then we're using that information, the old information, to handle this. This is new information. We're trying to live from the past. You can't live from the past anymore. I mean, you can. Let me know how it works out. I don't know. but really, that just feels uncomfortable. That feels miserable. That's where you stay in the discomfort, the unhappiness, the blaming, the victim, there's all these things all fit into that same energy, that same space. And it doesn't have to be that way. It can change everything. If you think about it, when we're creating and you hear about this stuff, use your imagination, go off on a freaking crazy trip of how it could play out. How could it play out that would be great? Instead of trying to play out all the time the fight, flight, or freeze type of thoughts. Like, how am I'm going to bring this forward. Okay, we learned this is exactly what happened right now. Just like you hear people saying, well, look, history always repeats itself. Oh, okay. It seems to me that it's a little bit different all the time. There's a little bit different players, and how much energy are we putting into that? What are our intentions when we hear this information? What are you creating from that space? As soon as you hear it, are you creating fear? Are you creating lightness? Are you just being in the bliss state, like seeing all the possibilities, the endless possibilities of how amazing this could possibly be? That feels better. And it doesn't mean that you're running away from something. It means that you're trusting your emotions. You're going with your feelings. That's how your feels are telling you, this feels better to me. Well, call it whatever you want to. I'm going to take the path that feels better to me. I'm learning to take the path that feels better to me. It's not always have we, because that's the old part, right? The old past stuff coming up, the old templates. You want to stay in that same space. I don't want to stay in that same space. And that's been my whole big deal. Okay, so asking myself, what does that look like? How does it evolve? How can it be great all the time? How can I be in a state of bliss? I know we're going to have our down moments, but if I can spend more time in those spaces, which I think that we can, I'll take it. And even the down moments aren't going to feel so down. It's going to be just a reflection time.
Yeah, that's another key thing, is if more people would spend more time with themselves, they might be amazed of the like breakthroughs that they would get.
Mm-hmm.
of themselves. I mean, it's just like, it's so amazing. There's a, I just heard about this, that there's a like a retreat. I don't know how much of a retreat it is, but it's a retreat
Uh-oh.
um, where you go and sit in a dark room for 3 days with nobody, nothing else, nothing. Like, you sit in a dark room for 3 days
Sign me up.
with you and
Yep.
you.
Yep.
And if you don't think there's going to be some meltdown, breakdown, and breakthroughs, that sounds powerful. I
Yeah.
mean, even as much as we've evolved, for us to go do it would be like, I can't even fathom what would come out of that, because I think it would be pretty amazing.
I would do it just because it feels like it's a great excuse not to answer the phone, not to look at text message,
Right.
not to have communication with anybody. Honestly, that does not sound like a bad thing. And that's been around forever. You know, you would have the
Yeah.
natives, going out, and I don't even know what the proper wording would be, but they would go out on their own in the forest and stay there for 3 days, and not eating or drinking or doing anything. You're just being.
Yeah. Well,
So
with that too, you get to see the sun and the sky and the stars and all this stuff. This is a dark room, like
yeah,
darkness, blackness, like nothing.
it's a clean
And
slate. It's an opportunity.
right, right. And what do you do with that clean slate? It's just like remember the etch a sketch?
Yeah, because
You
that's
could
what I
draw
was
something
thinking.
and then shake the
Yeah,
heck out of it when you wanted to start
yeah.
over.
As soon as you got a thought in there, it's like, oh, that was a thought. Shake, 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 shake. Yep, perfect. Perfect. Because as soon as before you even started to say that, in my mind, I saw the etch a sketch, shaking it because it was like shaking it up a little bit, which is so awesome. That's us, right? We just shook ourselves up, honestly, and we're like,
Right.
oh, it's got to feel better than this. There's a
Where
lot
you
more to life than
put
what
your head
that stuff.
sideways and
Yeah,
shake out the thought.
that's right. That's right. I like it.
That's why the eraser was invented, so we could clear out the mistakes we made.
But we know what that looks like. So that's a great visualization when you're
Yeah.
in meditation, or even the etch a sketch. It's a great visualization of you like, nope, I'm starting new. Like, I'm shaking this up. I'm starting new. This is my new life because I'm going to do everything new.
Interesting enough, every once in a while, I don't do it very often, but every once in a while I have a thought come in that's like, whoa, why you haven't, like, a past experience thought come out, and I will literally shake my head. I'm like, wait, no, we're not doing that. Reset.
That's right. That's right. I like that. I like that. Now I know when you make that look. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
It's not
Now you see this. What?
like, yeah. Oh, she just reset. It's funny.
Wouldn't that be awesome if people heard this video and then we're out and about and people are walking around, they're just, I'd be like, oh, you just did a reset.
That's right. Just like that. Vivi came over. It's my granddaughter came up. They came up yesterday, and she's like all excited. Oh, grandma, there's 2 flowers on my orchid. There's been 2 flowers on my orchid for a long time because all the rest of them have dropped off. It's just some grooming that could happen to make it different. But she was excited about it, and when I saw that, it wasn't like, oh, come on, Vivi, it was there. It's been there. No, I recognize that it's like that's how our life should be. If we're not keeping a template of things, if we're not bringing the past forward, it's enjoying the moment all the time, whatever that moment looks like. Because even though she's seen those flowers before, they look different to her when she saw them. And that's how things can be for us. But it's just how we look at it, right? We get so used to seeing the same mountains and the same trees, but because we're not looking at it as something new and fresh every day, because it is something new and fresh every day, just like we are. So if we're seeing our environment that's not new and fresh every day, then we're probably not seeing ourselves as new and fresh every day either. And what does that tell you? That's where your perspective is at. That's what you're giving energy to right now. I've been learning so much. It's really about, you want to be younger, or not, maybe not you necessarily, but you want to look younger, you want to be younger, you want to be able to move around and do all these things. Again, it's not bringing the past forward. It's just being right now. And the higher that you vibe, the high, you already are all those things. It's not separate from you. But the lower that you vibe, you can find every flaw in the world. You can find every problem in the world, and you are the world. So you're looking at yourself and you're picking apart yourself from this state of mind, from being in a problem state of mind when there is no problem. And all it is just a matter of perspective. That's it. And meditation is just a great way of communicating with your higher self and the creator or spirit, whatever spirits want to come through. And people get scared about that. Well, what if something bad comes through? Are you vibing in a lower vibration? Then if you are, then probably don't go into meditation right that moment, or don't go into meditation to connect with spirit. Just go into meditation and to relax and raise your vibration. We have so much control over things, but we get caught up in these things and we feel like it's out of control. And why? Because what I'm saying it is I'm reminding myself of when we didn't have control when we were children. When we were told how things were going to be and told how to act and told how to be and all these expectations. People start listening to their minds, you're going to be amazed at the stuff that pops up in your mind that's like, I'm still believing this stuff. I'm still living this life that way. I'm still that little kid that's being told to sit in the back seat. It's not your turn to sit in the front seat right now. I don't care. I don't want to hear what you've got to say right now. We're not in that same space anymore. And so when we start noticing the separation and we start noticing that we're feeling ourselves, for me, that's just a huge lights up and lets me know I need my attention. My little girl needs my attention. She needs to be seen and heard right now. And it's not by somebody else, because if it's by somebody else, now you're giving power away to that other person and having an expectation for them to always bring you out of that space. And that's not their job. So it's a wonderful place to be when you start empowering yourself.
Yeah.
Just being aware of thoughts.
And that's a great place to start, is just thought awareness.
Yeah.
Because your thoughts are going to dictate on how you feel, your emotion.
Because you're creating.
Yeah. And so if you're focused on those uncomfortable, horrible experiences from your past, and you keep thinking that, and then your body feels stressed and out of sorts, well, think about what you're thinking about. I mean, observe your thought, and that is part of your evolution. That's part of getting out of that stagnant place of reliving one situation, reliving it a million times. I know I've done it. I've kept it alive in my head and felt like crap and beat myself up for years and years and years. And it was one situation that happened one time. And that's being stagnant. That's being stagnant and in your experiences, in your circumstances. So have thought awareness. You have a thought. What it's Byron Katie's work, isn't it? She says, is this thought serving me now? Is this thought true? Is that what I'm thinking about? Is that true? And 9 out of 10 times it's going to be no. The answer is no. And so if the answer is no, why are we keep thinking these thoughts? Why we're not changing them? So you have the thought awareness. This is a thought. Is this thought serving me now? If the answer is no, then redirect your thoughts. Look at, could do something else. And also you could use intentional thinking. So intentional thinking is gratitude. You think of something that you can be grateful for. And that doesn't matter if it happened 20, 30, or 40 years ago. You can still express gratitude for it, because you can't be in the space of gratitude and the space of fear at the same time. You can't be in a space of gratitude and a space of depression at the same time. It's like gratitude is something that will shift you from, or help you evolve. Because the more you focus on what you're grateful for, the more the universe is like, oh, she's in gratitude now and she wants more stuff to be grateful for. So let's give her more stuff to be grateful for. So then we can give her more stuff to be grateful for. And how exciting is that? Because then your life starts evolving and changing. And then before you know it, you're just like, life's great. And 20 minutes ago, you were in a space where nothing was working. Life sucked. You hated where you lived. you don't like the people you're around, but you go and shift into gratitude, and then all of a sudden life is wonderful and everything's vibrant and fun and more of ease. And all you do is shift your thinking. You shift your focus. It's that simple. It really is that simple.
It really is. It really is. And then for me, because I'm going along the lines, I'm being pulled in a direction, different directions for my spiritual growth. That for me, it's even recognizing it's a thought. So if I'm thinking, that means I'm not allowing the receiving for me at that time. So it's just another process to the whole thing. And just because that's my wants and desires, right? I think that's not even a true story, because I feel like I'm being pulled in a direction. So I can't even say I know I'm going to be excited and thrilled by it, but I have no idea what that looks like. And I think that's awesome, because I'm not bringing the past forward. I'm just letting it be whatever it's going to be. How can I know what it's going to be if it's a whole new experience? I don't know. So I'm just going along for the ride.
And the practice right now is just to be thrilled and excited.
100%.
That is the practice. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. It doesn't matter what the journey is. Your job is to be thrilled and excited. It's like a little kid. You're just like, oh, it's coming, so excited, right? So yummy. And I'm so excited that it's on its way. And we just stay in that space and then watch how things evolve into something magical. But you can't, just so audience understands, can't be in this space of yumminess and reliving your past. It's like one or the other, right? And then again, as we have said multiple times over this past year or 2 years, is which one feels better? Which one feels better? Which one feels better in your body? Which one puts a smile on your face? Which one makes your heart sing? What brings more ease into your way of being? And that's where you put your attention.
I like it.
I know. It's so, it's like people who may be watching these videos and listening to us as we're speaking from a space of where we're at. That's why we keep saying the way I used to be back in my earlier days. Like once you understand, Bev and I have lived in those crappy mindset, stagnant, heavy, emotional, just the muck and guck. We've been there. We know, we lived there. We lived it for years, and we get it. But now we're speaking from the other side of the joy and the fun and the exhilaration, the excitement, the lightness, the ease, the flow, because we're living that now. And we still have our moments of dipping into the old ways, our old habits and behaviors and programming, but we also have enough skill to get ourselves out of that. Once in a while, we have to lean on each other. We don't have to, but we choose to. We lean on each other and we call each other, or after a recording, we talk and need some help to move through, just to help get a mindset shift. I've mentioned I'm in mastermind groups where, they help you have a bigger picture and see other alternative ways of doing things. And so we just bring forward this information to help you with wherever you are on your life journey. Doesn't matter where you are, that the things that we share, you implement them now. Implement them now, because you've been in that space for so long, and it's long enough. It's been long enough. Now you're at this, you've been walking this path, and now you're at this why, right? You get to choose, go left or right. And you get to choose which direction feels better. And when you make that choice to move in that direction, just notice how your life unfolds and how incredible it gets. Like it's going to get. It just happens, and it's way more beneficial for your life experience than keep doing what you've been doing.
Yeah, embrace where you're at right now too.
Oh, for sure.
celebrate where you're at right now because you've come a long way.
Oh yeah. And then
100%.
that's true. We forget that too, right? We forget to look at our qualities that we have developed because of what we did go through.
100%.
Strength, endurance, persistence, perseverance, like the will to keep going. It's just like, man, if you've come this far, no matter what age you are, and you're still choosing to continue to live your life out, dang, that's freaking amazing. That's worth celebrating. And it doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a chaos right now. It doesn't matter, because you have the skills to keep moving through it. You have it within you, and there's something within you that's telling you to keep going. Don't give up, don't give in, don't stop, keep moving, keep going. And to me, that's your spirit guiding you. Your spirit's like, nope, we're not done here, sister. Let's keep going, because greater things are coming. And spirit knows that. As a human, typically we don't that. And so we just find this to be just a big, huge shit storm and struggle, when really it's so much more than that.
100%.
It's so much bigger than we could even imagine.
We get tuned into that little tiny one little thing.
Yeah.
And we don't have to. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's a choice. But that's where we're so lucky, because we get to make choices.
Right. That's part of our humanness, right? We get to make choices.
Yeah.
And it's fun because it's a buffet. The buffet is full of choices, and you get to pick and choose what you want. And you can pick something that is disgusting and force yourself to eat it, and you don't like it, but you're struggling through it, when there was something on the buffet that you absolutely love, but you ignored it. Like, where does that make sense? But that's all the internal growth that has to take place for you to realize, I deserve to have that goodness. I deserve it. And so I'm going to set this aside, this thing that I took that I don't like. I'm going to set it aside, and I'm going to go back to the buffet, and I'm going to pick up the goodness that I want, and relish in it, and just let my heart sing and be so delightful about it, and embrace that, and have fun with it. And I can keep going back for more and more, because the buffet is unlimited unless they run out or they kick you out.
And you can always try something new, right? You don't have to have the same thing every time. You can try something new. And if you decide you want to eat dessert for dinner, go right ahead. Or
That's
dessert
right.
for breakfast. I don't care. Doesn't matter. I mean, really, it's your intention. It's how you feel about the whole situation.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're supposed to have your dessert last. You have to eat your dinner first. You have to eat all your dinner.
If I eat all my dinner, I would be too full, because I have to eat everything you put on my plate, and you gave me way too much, and I can't eat it all. Now I can't eat dessert because I had too much dinner.
100%.
What sense does that make?
It doesn't make sense. It makes sense just to have your dessert first. We'll just go with that.
That's right. Have the dessert, then the veggies.
Yeah.
If you want it.
That's awesome.
If you can be playful, it's your life. And probably by now you're an adult. Do you, boo.
100%.
So invite your friends, instead of inviting them to lunch, tell them we're going to dessert.
I like that idea. Hey, we're going for dessert. I like that. If you want to eat something else, that's fine, but I'm having dessert.
Yeah. We're going to go out, and we're going to have dessert first. Then we're going to eat lunch if we feel like.
Nice. I like it.
Or just order a dessert and share it, and then have lunch. Whatever. Just be playful about it and have fun.
Have fun. 100%.
And that's just it. Give yourself permission to have fun. Give yourself permission to have fun, because it's allowed.
It's allowed. Learn your definitions of what you define things as: money, relationships, love. Like, learn what and you can tell initially how it feels, or what your definition of it is by how it feels.
Yeah.
Then you can start breaking it down a little bit, because if you're thinking about one thing and it's making it feel heavy, why does it feel heavy? That means it's time to redefine that definition. Not with the old information anymore. It's like, what does a relationship look like to you? What does employment look like to you? What does freedom look like to you? There's a lot to process, a lot to look at, and use your imagination. Like, let it be, make it big. Don't like act like you're creating a story, like you're going to write a book, a kid's book from that information, because then it's more playful and it's imaginative and it's not controlled, and it's all the possibilities. And that's, if we can kind of embrace our inner child and come from that space, we'll create a lot of fun stuff, a lot of fun stuff.
And really, is if there's a word that you're not sure how to define it, ask people their definitions and see what resonates, or through that create your own. But ask, that's where you ask for help, right? Just start kind of like doing your own research. So Bev, what is your definition of love? And let her explain it to you in the way that she understands it now. She might give you the definition of what she thought it was before, and how she's evolved into what it means today, which we did earlier. What is your definition of excitement? What is your definition of to just be, right? So start asking people these questions so that you can get clearer on what your definition is for you right now, because even whatever it turns out to be right now is going to be different in a week, 6 months, or 6 years. And it's okay, but you have a starting place. You have something to gauge your evolution to, when you can recognize where you're at, and then what direction you want to move in.
It's true. Look at your gauges. We have them. They're running all the time. How you feel, what you're wanting to see, what you don't want to do. Like, just paying attention to all those things. Paying attention to you. Like, if you're going to write an article about yourself, like, learn everything you can about yourself. That's what popped in my head when you had said that. Really getting to know. But to me, it was really getting to know yourself. It's not getting to know anything else. Do the research on yourself.
Yeah.
See what makes you tick. See what these definitions mean to you. See how you can change things. And then watch how your life changes. Mark it on the calendar, like today. Today I changed. I changed this. And celebrating ourselves more often. We've talked about that. We always were told, like, think about what you did wrong, and all these things. We never spent the time looking at that stuff. A lot of us didn't. And so that's a practice. It's a practice to be in that space all the time. But once you're in it, there's no going back. You just evolve that way. So there's no reason. There's really no reason to be unhappy for long lengths of time. Go into the space, feel the emotions, and then move forward from it, whatever that looks like. Because that's just helping you just determine what you want in your life and what you don't want. Those emotions. They're clearing you. Yeah. They're helping you navigate the waters.
That's it. And that's all it is. It's just navigational tool.
That's it.
Don't feel good? Okay, what do I need to do to feel good? Right. And move. And move. Get it going. Awesome conversation, sister. Thanks for being here. Any final words?
Celebrate yourself.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, celebrate yourself more often, because
Yes.
When do you celebrate? Your birthday? And some people don't even like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yo, celebrate. You got your thong underwear on correctly today. Come on. Or your
Congratulations.
Yeah, right. Right. So celebrate yourself. Even the smallest, tiniest things that nobody else would understand. Celebrate that for yourself. And if you
100%.
want to share it, share it. I mean, some people are going to look at you all weird. They're not going to understand. So just celebrate you.
It's true. And I
Glad
hear
to
you
hear it.
loud and clear, because that's the same thing, same information I've gotten recently. It's really celebrating ourselves, but it's some of the stuff you can share it with others, but if you have any expectation or an attachment to their response or to the outcome, it's going to fall short, because it's not, people aren't going to understand it the same way that you understood it. That's why a lot of times what the message I've been getting lately is keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
You learn the stuff, some of the stuff, because it's not going to make sense to anybody else. You just keep it to yourself. Or if it makes sense to them, they won't celebrate it the same way you're celebrating. And then it almost kind of diminishes the celebration that you had for yourself. So just keep it for yourself.
Yep. And that's okay.
That's okay.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, and always enjoy these conversations. And we just always hope that you get something out of it. If you're watching us, following us, and if you are, then you know what? Let your friends and family know, because there's probably other people out there that need to hear this information as well. So share us.
Share us. And
Share.
thank you.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us. Tea Time with Amy and Bev. We'll see you next time.
Bye.